Hello everyone and welcome back to the Trinidadian kitchen. I should also be welcoming myself back because I've been absent for like more than a month on this channel and I'm really sorry for that. As you do know, in my last 3 videos, I uploaded those videos like a day before I went to Trinidad, that same night, and then the next morning was my flight. So I have a whole ton of vlogs, I have a few recipes from Trinidad, and I think what I will do is every now and then when I get time, I will upload a few, maybe 1 or 2 vlogs, maybe every week until all those vlogs are done. Um, I have quite a few vlogs to upload and get up there. So it is almost Navratri now. I've been back in Canada for about a month and I just don't like it here. I'd rather be over there. So it's almost Navratri. Next week is Navratri. So I thought I'll share this recipe for you. And next week I will be sharing some Diwali sweets, maybe laddu, barfi, almond barfi, a few different things. But by the way, if you've seen my Instagram, you'll know what type of almond barfi I'm talking about. So because it will be Navratri next week, I'm going to share with you a lopsy and sohari video. Now there are a few names for sohari. You could either say sohari, suhari, or sahari. I'll get into that when I'm actually talking about the sohari, but first I'm going to be sharing with you the lopsy, and I think I'll just put everything into one video. Alright, so for my ingredients here, I have 1 cup of all-purpose white flour. You can use the fine cream of wheat. There's a flour type cream of wheat, and then there's the coarse one. You can use a fine one as well. I think that's what it was traditionally made out of, the fine cream of wheat. I have just less than a cup of sugar. You can use sugar according to your taste, but if you're making for any type of puja, like prayers, then you can't taste the end result. So I'm just going to use less than a cup, so about 3/4 of a cup of sugar, some vanilla, and a pinch of elychee. I just parched and ground my own elychee. 3 cups of milk, maybe a little bit more, and a teaspoon of ghee. And for your you should just keep all the ingredients around you, so I will include all the ingredients you need for the 3 steps in Lapsi and Sohari making in the description. So please check the description for the ingredients. Okay, so you're going to just grab a mixing bowl, and to your mixing bowl, you're going to throw in your flour. Remember, just 1 cup, and make a well in the middle. In your flour, I'm just going to add a little bit of sugar, well, most of it, and I'm going to leave a 1/4 cup for while I'm cooking. Because I'm not making this for any prayers, I'm going to be able to taste it, but I suggest just do the 1 cup flour and 3/4 to 1 cup of sugar. That's what I suggest. And you're going to just mix this through. Okay, so we mix the sugar in there. Now I'm going to put a little bit of my elychee. You only need a little pinch because if you ground and patch your own elychee, it's stronger. So I'm using just a little pinch of elychee, and you'll add a little bit of vanilla as well, so about a 1/2 teaspoon. I'm gonna add it to my measuring cup as I measure out the 3 cups of water, and so that everything can dissolve with the vanilla, the milk can dissolve with the vanilla. So I'm gonna just mix up the elychee in here, and make sure you continue with that well. And just as you find clumps of sugar, break it up as you go. Alright, so you'll just measure out 3 cups of milk. Well, this can only hold 1 cup at a time. So I'll do my 1 cup. And then you're just going to, maybe if you're accustomed to kneading flour for roti, you can do it with your hand just at first. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Just gonna add in your 1 cup. And just to make sure that there are no lumps, we will be straining this as well, but I'm just gonna get in there with my hands and mix everything together. Alright, once all the flour is wet and it comes together like a batter, you're just gonna whisk it nicely. Or if you have the wire dal gutni, That's the best to use. So you're gonna whisk it properly, and you're gonna continue on. I'm gonna add in a half of a cup of milk at a time. So I'm gonna fill up my 1 cup again, and I'll add in a half a cup at a time until it becomes nice and watery. Now my 2nd cup of milk is added, and I'm going to go on to my 3rd cup now. And once you're done with your 3rd cup of milk, then if you wish, you can feel it with your hand again and make sure it's thick. And if any of the residue, like when you dip your hand and you let everything drop off, if there's still any residue, then you might want to add maybe half a cup of water. And I have about a 1/3 of a cup of water that I'm just gonna add in here. Alright, so I've got my pot here. I'm gonna turn it to about 4, so that's medium low, and I'm going to just put in a little less than a teaspoon of ghee, and I'm going to let that barely melt, because you don't want it to melt too much. You'll turn your lapsi into parsad. While the ghee is melting, let me just talk about my pot spoon, who I got it from. If you are probably subscribed to me, then you're probably already subscribed to her. That's Trini Cooking with Natasha. I entered into one of her giveaways, and she gifted me with this beautiful pot spoon, and she's such a nice person, and her videos are wonderful. Like, they're perfect, they're amazing. She does all types of Trini cuisine and even multicultural cuisine as well. So if you haven't already, then please check out her channel. I will leave the link to her channel in the description below. And I'm going to use her spoon because she's such a nice, sweet person. I decided I'll only use her spoon to make prayers food and sweets, especially sweets. So I'm going to be using this spoon to make the lapsi today. Alright, my ghee has just melted, and I have this 1 neem leaf here out of the 11. If you do not have any neem leaves at all, or if you can't get 11, completely forget about it. You cannot put less than 11, because you'll need 10 of them to dress the 10 lapsi and saharis, and you'll need 1 to cook in the lapsi. So in the ghee, I'm going to turn my heat off, and I'm going to just put this in the ghee to sizzle up. I've got the rest of my 10 leaves. Oh god. I've got the 10 neem leaves just in some cold water to soak. I washed them already, and I'm just leaving them in the cold water so that they keep crisp and nice, because when you assemble the lapsi and sahari together and you put the cloves through the neem leaves, then it will start wilting. And I think a good idea is to just blanch the neem leaves in some boiling water so that they become pliable, because they're so full of water, and their neem leaves are so thick that if you bend them like this, they will start to crack. So I let the neem leaf and ghee cool down, and it's gone crispy, like very crispy, and that's okay. My stove is still off, and you have the choice of using the dal ghutni the whole way, or I'm using just a whisk or a swizzle stick the whole way, and just mix it completely like that. And I think that's what I'll do, but I still would like to use a pot spoon just to make sure right in the end, because it will end up sticking to this. And while the stove is still off, into the ghee and neem leaf, I'm just gonna strain my lapsi mixture. Okay, so before I turn my stove on, I'm gonna whisk everything so that the ghee kind of spreads around more with the milk and flour. And then I'm gonna turn my stove on to number 2 on the stove, which is just above low. So the reason behind cooking with neem leaves, even though it's so bitter, is every time you do any type of Devi puja, like any type of goddess prayers, then you always put a few neem leaves, because just like how when you do any other prayers you put a little Tulsi leaf, you do the same with the neem leaves. And you can put Tulsi as well if you do not have the neem, but neem is for the goddess. It smells so good. It smells like vanilla and elychee and a little bit of ghee as well, and it smells so nice. So if you notice, at about 5 minutes in, the layer of ghee that's at the top will kind of reduce and it will look like everything's mixed in together. So just look out for that, and that's another indication that it's starting to cook and the flour is starting to soak up some of this liquid. Okay, 10 minutes in, and it's just starting to steam up a little bit. Okay, it's starting to thicken up a little bit, and I cannot stop whisking it for a few minutes, for a few seconds at a time. Okay, so I'm going to turn my stove completely to minimum heat, and I'm going to keep going at it. And let me just show you how the lopsy looks right now. So I'm going to keep on going. It's at that glue consistency, so just keep on going with it. And you want to make it into a creamy pudding-like consistency. It's taken on this like cream consistency, and that's exactly what lopsy is. Alright, let's check it now. Make your line through, and the line stays, so that's perfect. And now you're just going to take this off your stove, and you're going to keep it aside. And the next part in this is the sohari. So I have my flour here, and I'm going to show you what else we need to make the dough for the sohari. Okay, so for the sohari, I have 2.5 cups of flour, all-purpose white flour, a tablespoon of ghee, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. We're going to knead and crumble everything together until the mixture resembles breadcrumbs a little bit. Alright, everything's crumbled together nicely. And we're going to make a well in the middle of the flour. And we're going to add just enough water, a little bit at a time, to knead a dough very similar to roti dough. Okay, to knead this dough, and it came out, it's just perfect. Slightly sticky, but nothing wrong with that. As we continue kneading, the ghee will activate and it will unstick the dough from my hands. You'll take a little ghee in your hands, and you'll just cream it up in your hand, and you'll cover the dough completely and just coat it with the ghee. Alright, this dough is covered with your ghee. It's not sticking to anything because it's completely covered. It's coated, and all you're going to do now is just leave it to sit for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, you're going to take out your container or just a little bowl filled with flour for your parthan, as it's called, to dust your dough. A little bit of ghee, about maybe 2 tablespoons or so, in a little bowl, and you'll take out a small frying pan, and you're gonna fill about an inch of oil. Alright, so I've got everything prepared over here. I have my dough. It's been resting, and it's lost its sponginess, which means it's ready to make the loy and the sohari itself. I have my ghee, and I decide to keep it in a little thing of aluminum foil because it's easy to just crunch together and throw out. A little bit of flour, your parthan, a tray lined with paper towel to drain your sahari on, and my pan with an inch of ghee, less than an inch of ghee because it's just enough to coat the sahari when it's frying. And I'm going to turn the heat for this on medium high, almost borderline high. Alright, so I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to make 20 little balls out of it. Alright, once you've spread and made your 10 pieces, shares of the dough, you're going to smooth out the top and make it into a loy. Just basically do the same thing, but make it a little smaller, and just put a little coating of ghee on the top so that it doesn't dry out. So after a little tweaking, I ended up with 12 pairs. I'm going to start off with the first pair that I made, and I'm going to show you how I did it. My oil is still heating up here. I just turned it down a little bit, but I'm putting it right back up to medium high. So I'll take my first 2 balls of dough, and I'll just take a little ghee in my hand and just coat the 2 sides. And you want to spread them out just a little bit, like this. You're gonna take a little bit of ghee, a little bit of flour, and you're gonna put the 2 together. Join the 2 together, and then you're gonna continue spreading out the 2 rotis very thin. You're gonna do it just like that. And here you will notice that it came out a little bit too small on the first side, but that's fine. And we're gonna test a little piece of dough in the oil. See how hot it is. If it comes up right away, that's perfect. Alright, so my oil is ready. I'll take my sahari pear and I'll just dump it in the oil and I'll let it fry. So you'll see completely how I let it fry on both sides. And you can wait until it completely puffs up, but most of the time it will not. So you just do both sides. It takes very little time to do this. And okay, there we go, it's puffing up completely. You let it puff up like this, and then you can just take them out one at a time. And then here's number 2. You can just take it out and then put them on top of each other like that. And you can just burst it a little bit. And you want them to end up soggy because that's how they're supposed to be. So just make sure you take it in and you take it out at the same time. When you're making doubles, you have to go just as fast. And then you repeat the process. And then you could just take this and you could put it as well. But you have to make sure that the 2 of them stay as pairs. And then continue with all your sahari the same way. Alright, so all the saharis are done frying. I got 1 extra out of the 12 pairs. I had 1 extra dough, so I fried that for my sister to taste and tell me how it is. So I'll keep that aside. And I'll just show you how it is. Just like the dosti roti, you pull it out and you have the 2 pieces like this. And I stack them on each other just to keep them soft. And alright, so for the garnishes, I have ingredients to make the homemade cindor that doesn't stain or irritate your skin, which is also edible. You need 20 lawang, 20 cloves, and the 10 neem leaves. And for the cindor, you need a tablespoon of cornstarch and enough food coloring of your choice. Traditionally, people use red, but some people in our household have orange cindor. So we use orange cindor, but the traditional cindor is red. So get red food coloring to make your cindor. Okay, so to your tablespoon of cornstarch, you're just gonna add enough water just to wet all the cornstarch. And you can make it wet and keep it, or you can just let it dry afterwards and then crumble it up. After you let it dry, you can just crumble this mixture into a powder, and then you have your dry cindor. So I just wet all the cornstarch, and since I'm going to be using it directly wet to make the Sindoor mark on the Sohari, I'm gonna add a little bit more cornstarch just to make it thick. Okay, so I have enough water in my cornstarch to make a thick, gooey, slimy thing, and I don't really like how it feels, but just add your enough orange, or traditionally you would add red, but again we use orange, so just add enough food coloring and mix it thoroughly. And when you mix it, and if it dries and it turns out to be not enough orange color, then you can just liquefy it again. But this makes a very bright Sindoor. So I'm just gonna keep saying red in place of orange, even though I'm using orange. So you just add enough of the food coloring, the red food coloring, and you just keep mixing it together until everything is mixed thoroughly. And now this is ready. Okay, so to assemble your Sohari and Lapsi, you're going to take one of your Sohari pears, open it up, and then you're going to take your Lapsi and you're going to put enough inside. About 3 tablespoons of Lapsi inside each Sohari. Then, same way you do doubles, you're just going to fold it together like this. Fold it together, and then here on the side you're going to take a neem leaf. I'm gonna wipe it a little bit. Put the neem leaf down, and you're gonna take 2 cloves and push it through the neem leaf. Push your cloves through the neem leaf and pierce into the Sohari. Then you're taking your Sindoor and using your ring finger, because that's how it's supposed to be done. You're going to put a little drop on each Lapsi and Sohari pear. And now you have 1 Lapsi and Sohari ready to go to offer to Durga. Alright, so thanks for watching my Lapsi and Sohari video. I have added a Sindoor recipe and how to assemble everything together for offering. This is a wonderful recipe for Navratri time, and it's so simple to make. The only reason I took so long doing it is filming and editing and then putting it in measurements, because traditionally cooking, I feel like I've said this before, but when I'm cooking traditionally, I do not use any measurements. I just throw a little bit of this, throw a little bit of that, and I make my things. So this is the Lapsi and Sohari. A word about the Sindoor is you can take this into a bowl and just spread it out and put it in the sun, and when it dries up, then you crumble everything together and you get Sindoor powder. So I'm gonna just open this up and show you how it looks on the inside. You get your cream filling on the inside, and you have the cloves sticking out, and this is a favorite offering of any goddess during the Navratri time. I hope for all my Indian followers out there that you make this recipe, and even if you aren't Indian, it's a really good dessert, one of my favorites. So please try it out and have a very blessed and peaceful Navratri. Thank you for watching.